All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Stand for the pledge. Any changes to the agenda?
No, Mr. Mayor, there are no changes to the agenda.
Get a motion to approve as the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have presentations. We have oath of office for our firefighters. We're gonna do chief, and then we're gonna have all you guys as one. There's so many of you, so we're gonna go over by the wall over here.
Can I stand next to Craig?
Should have this photo together. All right. I state your name.
I, Jay Simon,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
I will uphold the Constitution of the United States,
I will uphold the Constitution of the United States.
Minnesota, and abide by all laws, rules, regulations,
Slow down now. Abide by all laws, rules, and regulations,
and the bylaws
and the bylaws
and policies
and policies
of the fire department.
of the fire department.
I will faithfully perform my fire chief duties
I will faithfully perform my fire chief duties
with compassion,
with compassion,
courage, and honor.
courage, and honor.
I will treat all citizens with respect
I will treat all citizens with respect
and dignity.
and dignity.
Each day I will display ethical and professional performance.
Each day I will, what did you say?
Each day we will display
I
ethical
will display ethical
and professional performance.
right,
And hold myself
and hold myself
and others accountable.
and others accountable.
I will serve with pride,
I will serve with pride,
integrity, and excellence,
integrity, and excellence,
and provide excellent quality service
and provide excellent quality service
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God. Here, we got one. Yeah. Next.
That's my, we'll leave it there.
Right, you want the rest of it?
We're gonna have everybody else.
Perfect. Good job.
You have a preference in cadence?
Good God, Bernardi, look at you. You going forward.
All right, you guys ready? Yep. All right, I state your name.
I, Jeff Sawyer,
Do solemnly swear.
do solemnly swear
Uphold the Constitution of the United States and the state of Minnesota,
uphold the Constitution of the United States and the state of Minnesota,
and abide by all laws,
abide by all laws,
rules, regulations, and policies
rules, regulations, and policies
of the fire department.
of the fire department.
I will faithfully perform my fire captain, lieutenant, assistant fire chief, and captain duties. You know your rank.
Chief duties
With courage,
with courage,
compassion, and honor.
compassion, and honor.
I will treat all citizens with respect
I will treat all citizens with respect
and dignity.
and dignity.
Each day I will display ethical and professional performance
Each day I will perform ethical and professional performance
and hold myself
and hold myself
and others accountable.
and others accountable.
I will serve with pride,
I will serve with pride,
integrity, and excellence,
integrity, and excellence,
and provide quality service
and provide quality service
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, gentlemen.
Thank you.
You can use
Derek?
this table in the middle.
Adam? Josh? Kevin. Robert. And Shaw.
No, move down. You come down. Bob, over here. You're gonna be next to Kevin here. Kevin. Then you're next to Kevin. You can pictures.
Okay, scooch in like you know and like each other.
I feel kind of twisted here.
Thanks, guys.
One more. Nope. Thank you. Derek, would you want to get one? Thanks, guys.
All right, settle down a little bit. Anybody here for public comment of anything that's not on the agenda? No? All right. Consent. I'll make a motion to approve.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
No public hearings. We'll move into general business.
First item under general business is a review of a water quality concerns and request for reimbursement by Jeffrey and Don Weitzel. The council is being asked to consider findings of fact and record of decision associated with that.
All right. All right, for this, there's some things we're gonna follow for this. This process for reviewing the items is intentionally formal and structured. Everybody will be given ample time to present your information. During a rebuttal or responding to council questions, you are asked to be concise and to the point. You are asked to speak only during your initial presentation and rebuttal, unless asked by a question by council. The initial presentations and rebuttals are your opportunities to present your information. Make use of those opportunities. There will be no additional back and forth. And do not be courtesy and do not interrupt others while they are presenting or responding to questions from the council. With that,
So the order of events for this is that I'll provide background on the general topic area. The detailed review committee will provide their background and basis and their recommendation related to the findings of fact and decision. Following that, the Weitzels will have an opportunity to address the council with any comments, additional information that they might have as well. And then there'll be an opportunity for both groups to provide rebuttal or additional information if they feel it's appropriate. The detailed review committee will have an opportunity to provide information, and then Weitzels would have the opportunity to present last information. During the additional information rebuttal stage, the mayor's asked me to remind everybody to stay concise when they're doing that, stay on topic. And then at the end, the council will then ask questions, deliberate, and then ultimately arrive at a decision on the topic. So on this particular item, in June of 2024, the City of Elko New Market was issued a DNR appropriations permit. I don't have a screen. This is verbal.
I took my screen sharing down for the video.
to increase the city's water supply. Under the provisions of the permit, the city is required to investigate water quality complaints and out-of-water quality complaints, so water quality and well interference complaints, and determine if such complaints are the result of the city's increased water use at its municipal wells or the result of the pump testing that was conducted in association with the permit. As part of the permit process, we were required to conduct an aquifer pumping test. The test was conducted in November and early December of 2023. And following the pump test, the city became aware of alleged water quality incidents involving private wells that coincided with the timing of the aquifer pump test. Staff's review of the available information led to the conclusion that the complaints appeared to be generally valid and that the 4 weeks of nonstop pumping at daily volumes that were 2 to 5 times historical daily volumes may have influenced the water quality episode. The pumping caused extra drawdown from normal water levels within the wells for much of the duration of the pump test, and it's believed that this allowed for natural and normally wet buildup of material inside the well casings and on drop pipes to be released into the water column and be captured by well pumps. Based on typical quality and well environments in the area, the material is believed to be oxidized in insoluble iron and manganese, as well as residue from bacteria that consumes these metals in that environment. The residue is not known to be harmful to humans despite the objectionable and nuisance nature of it. The City Council expressed support for reasonable compensation to affected well owners should the investigation show that the test was responsible for this episode. Council approved this compensation for well owners with the following objectives. One was uniformity of response. This recognized that the cause was the same for all of the wells within a reasonable distance from city wells, so compensation should be the same for owners that took the time to submit and follow up on a complaint. Drawdown estimates from pump test data includes impacts beyond 3 miles from city wells would have been negligible. City, based on only 2023 aquifer pump test impacts, this is intended that complaints related to the claims of ongoing water quality issues and other complaints about city water use are not eligible for this compensation. Those are a separate item to be handled separately, so this process is intended only for those well owners that were impacted by the aquifer test. Common basis for compensation: the material released in quantity during the pump test exists naturally within area wells and routinely makes its way into homes, though at much more manageable rate, even during normal conditions. This is evidenced by the predominance of homes reporting use of iron filters or similar equipment at the head of any in-home treatment train. It follows that the city should consider compensation for impacts from the aquifer test based on the systems of typical homes in the area. Focusing on the actual impacts, the typical complaint reported needing to prematurely replace filters, other associated cleanup. The episode would have involved materials for that, as well as some time to do that work. Time was also required to restock filters spent during the episode, file the complaint, complete and return the questionnaire, and make any follow-up inquiries. Typical filters are inexpensive and often purchased. That the offer the compensation would be on a take-it-or-leave-it basis. Staff, it was recommended that we did mail forms, checks, and we did have a number of individuals that took the initial offer. So at the September 25th council meeting of 2025, the council determined that it would extend an offer of $300 of compensation to impacted well owners that met eligibility requirements. However, the council wanted to make sure that there was a separate process and instructed staff to develop a detailed review process for well owners who believed the offer did not adequately cover the costs they had associated with the pump test based on their specific circumstances. Requests for detailed review were to be considered for recommendation to the City Council. A committee was established consisting of the Public Works Director, Corey Schweik, the Public Works Lead, Derek Kavanaugh, and Senior Planner Christensen. The Council wanted to provide an opportunity for those requesting a detailed review to also address the Council directly. Furthermore, the Council wanted to make a final decision and hear any challenges for dispute to the recommending committee, and so it was directed that the recommendations from the committee should come to the Council for final decision. The city did receive a request for detailed review from Jeffrey and Don Weitzel. They're owners of a private well at 26340 Thomas Avenue. They had submitted a request for payment by the city in the amount of $3,299 for replacement of their current iron treatment system. They indicated that the failure of their current system is the result of the city's 2023 aquifer pump test and the 2025 pumping event. They have indicated that they do not agree with the recommendation of the committee and have provided their comments, which have been included in your packet, but they will have an additional opportunity tonight to either reiterate that or expand upon it. The proceedings tonight are a presentation to the council regarding the recommendation of the committee and the Weitzel's comments and or dispute of those recommendations for the purpose of making a decision regarding the compensation to the Weitzels related to the impacts resulting from the 2023 aquifer pump test. So at this point, the committee would be asked to present their information to the council for consideration.
I will be handling the presentation of the information and have prepared a PowerPoint to guide us through the findings. So some of my first few slides are kind of redundant with some information that Tom has already prepared, but just a general overview. Property located at 26340 Thomas Avenue. Property is platted as Lot 4, Block 1, Elko North Addition. Jeffrey and Dawn Weitzel have owned and lived at the property since 1999, according to county records. There is a domestic well that exists at on the property, identified as unique well ID number 562292 in the Minnesota Well Index, constructed in 1996, and the well casing being 340 feet deep. As Tom reported, the city conducted an aquifer pump test from November 8th, 2023 to December 6th, 2023. The pumping was associated with the city's request to amend its water appropriations permit. The city also conducted an increased pumping event from October 21st, 2025 to November 6th, 2025, where 1 million gallons per day was pumped. The Weitzel's private well is located approximately 0.77 miles from the nearest municipal well. The Weitzels have reported that water pressure issues and sediment problems became more noticeable after the city's aquifer pump test in late 2023, and also more recently after the city's increased pumping event in 2025. The Weitzels reported difficulty running 2 showers at the same time, reduced pressure at fixtures throughout the home, and intermittent air in the plumbing described as sputtering or gurgling, most noticeably during the mornings. They reported ongoing sediment buildup in the treatment equipment and concerns that the iron filter may have failed earlier than expected. On February 19th, 2026, Weitzels submitted a request for reimbursement by the city of their current iron filtration system. So that's a brief background. I'm going to step back a little bit. This is somewhat of a different topic, but in 2024, the Department of Natural Resources identified potential wells that could potentially experience well interference. And they identified the Weitzels as one of several wells potentially at risk of interference during extended municipal pumping. The determination by the DNR was based on information contained in the Minnesota Well Index, and which indicated to them that their well may have less than 10 feet of water above their pump during extended municipal pumping occurrences. On August 8th, 2024, city representatives communicated with Weitzels regarding their private well and the potential for well interference. And just a high-level review again of what well interference is. well interference occurs when a high-capacity well pumping, often a municipal well or irrigation, high-capacity irrigation well, lowers the surrounding aquifer's water level below the pump of level of a nearby domestic well, causing them to be essentially out of water. So when we talk about well interference, it's really a well being out of water. And the graphic on the slide before you is just a simple graphic that shows a high-volume pumping well and how the drawdown from that well creates this cone of depression, and how that cone of depression can draw the water below a domestic well. And I've circled the bottom of the municipal well and the bottom of the domestic well to illustrate that point. So in the city's effort to respond to the DNR's recommendation and the concern of well interference, the city investigated and did due diligence related to this topic. So the Minnesota Well Index records indicate that the Weitzel's well was drilled by Gary's Well Company, the well casing outside of the well being 340 feet deep, and that the well had 189 feet of drop pipe when installed in July 1996. As part of the city's review, the city contacted Hartman Well Drilling, who we had been advised that was the current company maintaining the well on behalf of Weitzel's, to request any available records regarding the well construction service history. Again, Hartman confirmed that they did not originally drill this well, but they did have service records since that time. Hartman's records indicated that the company had performed service work at the property in 2010, during which 72 feet of drop pipe was replaced. No additional electric wire installation was installed at that time, and this suggested to Hartman that the work likely involved replacing damaged pipe rather than changing the pump depth or lowering the pump. No measurements were recorded by Hartman because there was no indication of mechanical issues requiring further investigation. Again, this is reported by Hartman. Hartman stated their records also indicate that they visited the property in 2016 to evaluate a reported concern, but did not identify any problems with the well system, and stated that no work was performed or billed at that time. Now moving on to, we also gathered information from the Weitzels regarding maintenance to the well, and they submitted their maintenance history by completing a questionnaire that had been sent by the city as part of the city's data gathering. The Weitzels reported that Hartman serviced their well in 2016, and that in 2016 all of their drop pipe was replaced, and that they did come back at that time to redo 72 feet of drop pipe, put in a control box, a pump, a new pump, check the valves, and installed a new pressure tank in their home at that time in 2016. Weitzels did report that they paid cash to Hartman for the work, and that when they inquired with Hartman about the dates of service, their records did not reflect the extent of the service performed. That could be part of the discrepancy between the two records. City, we acknowledge and note that there is a conflict between maintenance reported by the Weitzels and by the Hartman Well Drilling. Because neither the city or Hartman possessed what we thought were updated or accurate records confirming the depth of the pump, the city offered to hire Hartman Well Drilling to pull the drop pipe and the pump to verify the pump depth at the city's expense. If the measurement confirmed that the pump remained at its original depth listed in the Minnesota Well Index of 189 feet, the city proposed lowering the pump further into the well casing by adding drop pipe also at the city expense. That would satisfy the DNR's concern of potential out-of-water or well interference at this well. Mrs. Weitzel agreed to allow the city the work to proceed and did request that the pump be lowered to help prevent potential well interference in the future. The city staff coordinated with Hartman Well Drilling, and the work was scheduled for November 11th, 2024. Prior to the work, the Weitzels did sign an agreement outlining costs and responsibilities related to the work, that the city would pay for all labor and costs related to pulling and reinstalling the pump. The city would cover all costs associated with lowering the pump if measurements confirmed that it was at its original height. If existing components such as the drop pipe, pump, or any fittings required replacement just due to age or corrosion, the homeowner would be responsible for those costs only, while the city would cover labor associated with that work. So those agreements were signed and in place at that time. So again, on November 11th, Hartman Well staff arrived at the property to pull the well drop pipe and potentially add drop pipe. After the drop pipe had been removed, Hartman proceeded with the interior of the casing. The well casing was cleaned in the area of the pump. This is done by using an air compressor and a tool to remove buildup that may have built up on the interior of the well casing prior to reinstalling the drop pipe. 21 feet of 1-inch galvanized drop pipe was added by the city, and the Weitzels chose to add an additional 41 feet of drop pipe, so it was added by the Weitzels. Following the work, Hartman reported that the total well depth of the well casing continued to be 340 feet, and that the drop pipe depth now at 225 feet, with the pump depth being at 231 feet. The water level reported in the well at the time was 178 feet. The work here again was to resolve any potential well interference or out of water issues that had been identified by the DNR. As directed by the City Council, this is kind of moving on to water quality concerns. As directed by the City Council, the City Engineer's Office mailed water quality complaint compensation or detailed review request forms to Weitzels, as well as other well owners who had submitted concerns about their well or water quality as a result of the city's increased pumping. The form offered a one-time compensation of $300 to those who had submitted concerns, or in lieu of accepting the $300, a well owner could request a more detailed review of their well and water quality concerns. The Weitzels returned this form to the city, declining the $300 compensation offer and requesting a detailed review of their concerns. Along with the signed form, a letter was included. This was dated December 4th, 2025. They also requested at that time reimbursement of $402.87 to cover cost of servicing their filtration system in November of 2023, and they included a copy of the invoice. Their letter states that they experienced a loss in water pressure as a result of the city's 2023 test pumping, and that their water was also affected by the 2025 pumping event. And the letter states that they had not had these types of issues prior to the city's testing. So now research begins on the water quality concerns, and the investigation was primarily conducted by city's public works staff. So research first regarding the home's filtration system was conducted by public works staff based on a site visit and homeowner discussions. The filtration system inside the home was found to be configured as follows. The well line enters the home and feeds the pressure tank. Water then flows through a Hillenbrand iron curtain 2.0 Promate 6.0 iron filter, followed by an Aqua Systems water softener, and then into the house plumbing. The pressure tank and pressure switch were replaced on November 11th, 2024 by Hartman, with the pressure switch set at 35 to 60 PSI. The iron filter was installed by Cash Equipment Sales in November of 2009. That installation date was found out later in discussions with the contractor or company that was associated with installing the equipment. The water softener, again, is an Aqua Systems unit. The model and the installation date are unknown. During the on-site visit, bypass testing of these two systems was performed. Bypassing the water softener resulted in little to no improvement in pressure or flow. Bypassing the iron curtain, iron filter resulted in a noticeable increase in pressure and flow, indicating that restriction to water pressure was within the iron filter. The homeowner noted that historically the laundry tub had very high pressure and could not be fully opened without splashing. At the time of the testing, that the public works staff were there, other fixtures in the home were operating, which may have influenced observed flow. Water samples were also collected at that time, on that date, for both raw water entering the home and post-treated water. So field testing showed raw water iron at approximately 3.75 milligrams per liter, and treated water iron at approximately 0.26 milligrams per liter. Raw water manganese measured at approximately 0.085 milligrams per liter, and treated water measured at 0.004 milligrams per liter. Hardness was reduced from approximately 15 to 25 grams per gallon to 1.0 to 1.5 grams per grains per gallon. The raw water samples were consistent with historical and current iron and manganese levels throughout the area. The results indicated that the iron curtain system was still effectively removing manganese and most of the iron. However, buildup in the system appears to be restricting flow and contributing to the loss in pressure. The next area of research was related to what types of service had previously been done on the system. So public works staff was advised that Benjamin Franklin Plumbing, formerly Cash Equipment and Sales, had done the maintenance on the system. Staff contacted them regarding the maintenance and were given the following information: that the iron filter was installed in November of 2009, that the iron filter system was serviced in July of 2016. The contractor reports that in July of 2016 that the unit has very low flow, advised cleaning, pistons leak, micromatic timer relay is bad, and advised tune up on the water softener. checked and reset the programs on the iron filter and the water softener, cleaned aeration heads on the iron filter, installed new pistons, and stack assembly. The unit now has good water flow, tuned up water softener, ran cleaner through the system, cleaned injectors, and screen set up for correct water test. They reported that maintenance was conducted again approximately 3.5 years later in December of 2019. The contractor reports that they checked the iron filter, the aeration head was clogged, the inlet check valve is clogged, advised minor cleaning, clean aeration head and inlet check valve, clean bypass assembly, and verified proper flow rates. The unit is now operating properly, maxing out at 9 gallons per minute flow. Contractor notes that they noticed after running the water for several minutes that the well pressure was extremely low and the well was having a hard time keeping up with demand. Advised the owner to possibly have well service or have a well company look at the well. The iron filter system was again serviced by Benjamin Franklin Plumbing in November of 2023. The contractor reports cleaned iron filter, aeration head was very dirty, recommend cleaning in 2 years. This service call was, I don't remember exactly, 6 days after our pump testing started or something like that. There was another service call to Benjamin Franklin in January of 2026. The contractor recommended replacement of the system and cost estimates were provided for replacement of the system, but based on the service records that were provided by us, maintenance of the system was probably not done at that time. So there was previous service appeared to be as noted in the service orders due to aeration head being clogged and iron head being dirty. Staff continued to ask about service recommendations or frequency of service. Benjamin Franklin Plumbing advised Public Works staff that recommended maintenance of that type of system would be as follows. They explained that some units that they have need to be maintained every 6 months to a year, and some can go as long as 3 to 4 years without needing maintenance, really depending on the quality of the water. Benjamin Franklin recommends an inspection every year to make sure the unit is operating correctly and to make sure it doesn't need repairs, any repairs or service. They stated the filter media should be checked yearly with the inspection. And the filter media just relates to what's inside the filter that basically filters out the iron or manganese. Note, Benjamin Franklin Plumbing recommends having this was just a side note, it might be different in every situation, but they did advise staff that they recommend having a sediment filter before iron filter units to catch any debris and that helps prolong service intervals on the iron filtration system. Staff did try to reach out to Helen Brandt several weeks ago with no response. We reached out again more recently. Helen Brandt, who is the manufacturer of the iron filtration system, responded to the city through emails recommending annual maintenance of the iron filtration system. Moving on to life expectancy, when asked those same questions of Benjamin Franklin and Hillebrand, according to the staff who we corresponded with at Benjamin Franklin Plumbing, the typical life expectancy of this type of iron filtration system, which when properly maintained, is approximately 10 to 15 years. Hellenbrand, the manufacturer, reported that the life expectancy of the unit is 10 to 15 years. City staff on February 6th, 2026, met with the Weitzel's to further discuss their concerns and what the next steps would be. They outlined their options that they were considering for continued repair or replacement of their system. They indicated that they would like to meet, or were planning to meet with one more vendor before making a final decision on replacement. And staff explained that the city is continuing to analyze the information gathered, which would be forwarded to and reviewed by a designated review committee. The Weitzel's were informed that if they had a request for reimbursement for repairs or replacement of the filtration system, the city would, need documentation and clearly identifying the specific amounts and reason for those amounts. And then it was further explained that a committee would review all of the findings and a recommendation would be made, prepared for city council consideration. Shortly after, February 19th and 20th, emails were submitted by Don Weitzel. The Weitzels have submitted emails indicating that they do intend to replace their existing iron filtration system with an evergreen air ozone scour filter. In addition, they do plan to install a pre-filter on their system. They indicated that the pre-filter would be a new addition to their system and was not part of their original configuration. As such, they are not requesting reimbursement for the cost of the pre-filter, but they are requesting that the city reimburse $3,299 for replacement of the current iron filter system, which is now approximately 16 years old. As directed by the council, there was an internal review committee to review the findings, which consists of Corey Schweik, Public Works Director, Derek Kavanaugh, Lead Public Works Worker, and myself, Renee Christensen, Senior Planner. The committee met on March 12, 2026 to review all of the findings related to the well and the filtration system. And as part of that, the committee considered information provided by the Weitzels, site inspections and interviews with the Weitzels conducted by Public Works staff, information contained in the Minnesota Well Index, well service history provided by Hartman Well Drilling and the Weitzels, water filtration system service history provided by Benjamin Franklin Plumbing, water sample results, and filtration system maintenance recommendations from Benjamin Franklin Plumbing and Hillenbrand. The committee has reviewed the information and everything that we were able to obtain and have made a recommendation to the city council for denial of the request for payment of $3,299 for replacement of the iron filtration system and approve a $300 payment for water quality complaint compensation. The recommendation is based on facts outlined herein and noting that the Weitzels iron filtration system was 14 years old at the time of the city's initial pump test. The system is currently just over 16 years old. According to Benjamin Franklin Plumbing and the installer, the typical life expectancy is 10 to 15 years when properly maintained. The iron filtration system did have a history of clogging and needing cleaning prior to the city's pump testing events, as evidenced by maintenance performed in 2016 and 19 prior to the city's testing. The need for replacement of the iron filtration system does not appear to be related to the city's increased water use or result of pump testing, but rather because the iron filtration system is in need of maintenance or had reached its life expectancy. the city found no evidence indicating the city's increased water use caused the need for replacement. So those findings were put into a findings of fact document, which was also included in your packet and provided to the Weitzel's. Again, Tom noted that the Weitzel's have submitted a rebuttal, and that was included in your packet. At this time, I'll turn it over to you if you have any questions, or if you want to turn it over to Weitzel's. Okay. That concludes my presentation. If you have any questions for me, or Corey, or Derek. Okay.
Well, it's Weisel's turn. Come on up. Podium.
Good evening. Dawn Weitzel, 26340 Thomas Avenue. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council members. I have to say, this is very uncomfortable. But I hope that I inspire others to stand up for their protection also, to kind of lead the way on that. I'm going to kind of lead into this by taking a little time to illustrate my perspective when I went into the process. I told you before, I got my degree in public administration, and I did work for municipal government. And the very first city that I worked for was a city by the airport, by MSP. And I was hired as communications. I had to work with residents, and go to the legislature and go to the airport because the MSP was putting in a new runway. And the runway was running parallel with the city. And as a result of that, you know, the experts determined that the city would have low frequency impact. And that would be to the residents that were parallel with that runway. So I was specifically hired to have meetings with residents, to have meetings with MSP, to go to the legislature to help protect our residents. And as a result, the residents got sound insulation. But the city had to pay thousands of dollars to protect their residents. And it was a decision that they didn't make. They were a neighbor to the airport. But they found that to have residents stay within the community, to have businesses want to locate there, to have people want to move to the city, they had to show that they would protect their residents, even for something that they had nothing to do with. So that's the perspective that I come from. You know, city government is there, I mean, to protect its residents, and that's what I'm asking for tonight. Just like in my story about the city by the airport, our residents and businesses need your protection. They need to be heard, they need to be valued, and they are your constituents. I sent you a report, kind of my take on what was happening. Basically, a summary of the claim is that the November to December 2023 aquifer pump test directly caused water quality impacts that led to the premature failure of our iron filtration system. And what is also noted, and it didn't bring this up in the city's report, is that the city and the experts acknowledged the fact that 4 weeks of continuous high volume pumping, which was 2 to 5 times the normal levels, created this excessive drawdown, releasing the material, and that, along with the debris within the aquifer, entered and damaged our system. Now, they did talk about, you know, ours being one of the 7 at-risk wells for potential interference. The direct correlation, within 1 week of the test beginning, we experienced extremely low pressure and required service. and severe contamination was documented, and I did send you a picture on that. And then the impact of it being our system shifted from 3 to 4 year maintenance cycles to requiring significantly less after that. Early replacement is necessary due to high levels of iron and contaminants now in the media, as well as low pressure caused by additional contaminants sustained during the 3 weeks following the cleaning and before the well pipe was lowered by the city. It remains unknown what changes were made to the aquifer after the extremely high levels of pumping. And then I talk about some inaccuracies. I mean, if it was a story about you'd want to get it straight. So the inaccuracies that we found in the report is that the city reported a life expectancy of 10 to 15 years. I can tell you straight out, I remember at that time because, I mean, we didn't have a whole lot of money and we had to buy this new system, and we wanted a system to last as long as possible. We knew our kids were growing up in the area. We knew we were going to be staying in the house. And I can guarantee to you that we would not have purchased a system that had a 10 to 15 year. Our system is rated for 15 to 20 years that we were specifically told at the time of purchase. And we were also told that it can last even longer, again, dependent on the quality of your water and water usage. And at the time of testing, we estimated 6 or more years of life remained. And I kind of gave this illustration, and I'm sure you have it too. We had a front load washer that we had for 20 years. We still have the first dryer that we came here with, and that's over 25 years. So the filtering system could have lasted even significantly longer than that time. Another inaccuracy that we found within the city's report is the mischaracterization of the maintenance history. And in it, you saw that I said, we didn't have this type of problem before. Yeah, I mean, we had a cleaning in 2016 and a cleaning in 2019, and they replaced some things in 2016. And in 2019, it was noted that there was minor cleaning. There is no abnormal system requirements needed or increased maintenance noted, within it. Those reflected routine maintenance, not a systemic failure of our system. Also brought up is, unsupported conclusions on the city's report, page 4, number 5. We did decide that the determination lacks factual support. Service records indicate standard maintenance in 2016 and 2019, and it wasn't until November 15th, 2023, after the pump testing began, that records noted a very dirty aeration head and recommended service in 2 years instead of the typical 3 to 4 years. And also on that page, number 6, the city downplayed the significance of the very dirty aeration head immediately after the pump test, again, in reference to the picture. This condition was highly unusual, documented and consistent with debris and gunk released by continuous high volume pumping. Another inaccuracy is about the assumption of the filtration system. We didn't use a pre-filter. We admit to that. Our system didn't require it. We didn't have the sediment. So we were told when we purchased it that we didn't need a pre-filter. And I even did some research on our system, and they talked about the media lasting up to 20 years, 10 to 20 years, depending on the water quality and the usage. And it even, oh gosh, I don't even remember where it said, but it indicated that we had low usage. It was in, I can't remember what report, and I do believe I talked to the city about that too. And in it, it said recommended service for an iron curtain system is every 4 to 6 years at peak efficiency, or to maintain peak efficiency. The system uses a multimedia depth filter, which is generally more durable than standard single media filters, contributing to extended lifespan. There was a statement within city's report about inexpensive filters. And I can tell you, they're all over the board. One of the quotes that we had, you had to buy $80 to $100 filters. And sometimes that's 1 to 2 times. So we looked at a series of different models. We looked at pre-filters and that. And so that's why, you know, we chose to continue looking at the brand we currently have. Another inaccuracy are incorrect service recommendations. The city's report includes a statement by Benjamin Franklin Plumbing recommending an annual inspection. And apparently Helen Brand did too, which floors me because we just talked to their salesperson and nothing was ever said about anything like that. And again, he stated the 3 to 4 year maintenance on a new Helen Brand. So I don't know who people are talking to, but we've never heard anything before reading it in the report here about an annual inspection. And it's excessive. You know, I don't know what they're going to inspect. In order to clean it, they have to take it all apart. So anyway, 2016, 2019, 2023 service records, there were no mention of inspections or pre-filters. And we followed verbal and written guidance from the installer and the service providers. And another inaccuracy, pre-filter claims are inconsistent with service history. The city report states that Benjamin Franklin Plumbing recommends having a sediment filter before the unit. The city added Weitzel's do not have one. We feel that these statements are misleading. Prior to high volume pumping, a pre-filter was not required. No pre-filter was recommended by service providers until January 15th, and that was only because I brought it up when I asked about quotes. Do we need a pre-filter? Because the city had said we should look into a pre-filter in December, the month before. And that was the only time that it was brought up. The initial Iron Curtain quote from Premier Water Technologies did not include a pre-filter. And then when I asked him, you know, if one was needed, he stated, well, it wouldn't hurt. They'll put it in, it'll catch some sediment, but I didn't see sediment in yours. You just have to make sure, and this is an iron filter that we can clean ourselves. So if we were looking for something, we would want to do it that way. We see a definite vendor credibility issue when it came to Benjamin Franklin making statements about our system, about annual inspection, pre-filters. They bought KES. They didn't sell the system that we did. They never did sell it. They cleaned it for us. So reliability on their statements, we didn't find very high. I do note some supporting evidence that I don't think I need to get into. Timeline highlights. November 8th, the pump test, 2023, the pump test began. And by November 15th, we required immediate service because, and it's noted that the aeration head was very dirty. And from November 16th, then through December 6th, we didn't know that a pump test was going on. We had it cleaned right away, but from that November 6th date to December 6th, there was a continued high-level sediment exposure during testing. And then it wasn't until August of 2024, or around that date, that we had found out about our well being at risk by the DNR. and that pump testing had been conducted during that time period of November to December 2023. In November 2024, additional pipe was purchased and the pump lowered to mitigate drawdown. And like it was mentioned, the city funded 21 feet. We funded an additional 41 feet at our own expense. We did this because it costs a lot of money to have a well company come out and do work. And we knew that the city had plans for development, for businesses coming in, and that it would only mean more water, more down draw. And so we funded it because we didn't have to go through this again. So we purchased 41 feet at our own expense, and we put in a new pressured tank that we had put in 2016. We replaced that one. So we paid $1,797. And I just make a note here about this whole discrepancy about 2016 and that when the city came out for mitigation in November, there was no age-related pipe replaced. It had been done in 2016. In 2016, we had to replace pipe that was leaking from when we had put it in and when we had replaced it in 2010. So, in the report, it mentioned something about, well, if it hadn't been replaced since 2010, then the owner would need to replace it then in 2024. Well, there was no age-related pipe that we had to purchase at that time. After inspecting our well, the city funded lowering the pipe. Again, like I said, this confirms that interference from pumping, not aging infrastructure, was the relevant issue. In fall of 2025, we experienced recurring pressure issues, and this was within 2 years of the 2023 cleaning. And then in January 2026, we started seeing sediment and iron staining. And that's when the replacement of the system and pre-filter was recommended by the different places. Some additional context for this. Our maintenance interval changed from 3 to 4 years of maintenance to less than 2 years after the pump test. New and ongoing costs were introduced after post-testing, meaning the pre-filter. Service providers that came out and talked to us confirmed that there was an increased sediment affecting homes in the area. Just mentioning the files or complaints filed with the city. And other residents have experienced equipment failure also. So in conclusion, there is clear evidence of a direct link between the 2023 pump test and the degradation of our iron curtain filtration system. Our system functioned properly prior to the pump test with regular maintenance as advised. There was immediate and documented impact following the start of pump testing. The system sustained continuous sediment exposure throughout the pumping period and possibly until the mitigation point, resulting in increased maintenance needs and reduced lifespan. We were one of 7 wells identified by the DNR at risk. And I think almost the most important piece of this is the city has admitted fault on this already and Rich's quote, I think sums it up well. It is concluded based on this evidence that biofilm and or mineral buildup inside the well casings was exposed to air for up to several weeks during the drawdown at the private wells affected. The exposure and or rising water as aquifer pressure levels recovered facilitated the release of the exposed material from the well casing. After being released into the water column, the material was drawn into the well pump and delivered into the plumbing system in the connected home. The material may have been flakes or clumps that were churned to a slurry by the pump, which was then captured by filters or treatment equipment in the home. Incomplete removal by home treatment would have resulted in color, odor, and taste changes by the user. Once the material was removed by home treatment and or flushed through the system, the user's water returned to normal. And most importantly, failure to return to normal as reported by some users might be explained by residual material in the home's plumbing system. In summation, the pump test and resulting water level aquifer changes prior to mitigation caused the premature failure of our system. What we're looking for cost-wise is the cost of a pre-filter and a filtering system of $39.98. We've paid over $2,200 right now, and this request for the $39.98 is reasonable compensation. In going through the process, if you continue doing it, we have some recommendations for it. I know you talked at length about who was to be on the review committee. Councilmember Timmerman had stated several times that she was really willing to be part of it. We just find that having staff write a report, put everything together, and then make an evaluation on their own conclusions is a very clear conflict of interest. There's no independent representation to question any findings in it. And, you know, Councilmember Byrd questioned the need for a review committee or review group. And if it continues, we agree. It'd be just best for staff to write their own opinions. The group appears to be labeled as a review committee primarily to create the appearance of impartiality, but it's anything but. I feel that the committee made decisions based on inaccurate statements. We were never asked to submit a formal statement to the review committee. We are told, you know, give us information, but I'm not afraid to write a report or our opinions or something that will help out a review committee. And we weren't asked to create a formal statement. We weren't given the opportunity to refute inaccuracies before the report was submitted to the review committee. City staff did not follow up on key issues or seek clarification regarding their conclusions. And to a lesser degree, you know, we weren't invited to speak or even to listen at the review committee meeting. We went into this with full faith of the process, and, you know, we've been taken aback by some of this, and we just really feel that a lot can be learned from this, you know, what took place, and how we can really make our residents feel like they're protected. Thank you.
You want me to respond to?
You have the floor to respond.
Okay. Clearly, there is some discrepancies in information you have provided and information that we gathered. So the information we gathered was from Benjamin Franklin, who, yes, was formerly Cash, and they don't sell Hellenbrand anymore. The recommendations we had were 10 to 15 years lifespan. You had 15 to 20. We were able to reach out to Hellenbrand, the factory, direct, have emails from them. They said, 10 to 15 years with proper maintenance. I specifically asked, how long are the maintenance intervals? And they said, annually. I asked, what needs to be done annually? The media needs to be checked. I said, how long does the media last? 5 to 10 years. So we're going off information that are from, not from you, from your information, but also from the vendor who worked on your house and the manufacturer that provided recommendations to us. So when we're going off of the 10 to 15 years, that's what we're told. What they told you, what you're telling me is 15 to 20. So what the information we were going off is what we were able to gather. We're only getting as much as what they have. So at the time of the pump test in 2023, it had been about 4 years since you had maintenance.
Probably, yeah.
And then, so before that, it was 3.5 years before that. And Hillenbrand recommends maintenance every year. So if there's nothing done, and I don't know if anything was done between 2009 and 2016, we don't have any records. Benjamin Franklin didn't have any, you guys have not provided any, I don't know if any maintenance was done. So those are some of the things that we're going off of when we're doing this. So let me, yeah.
I think you're addressing council.
Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah. No, I'm sorry, I just,
Directing it at her.
yeah, yep. So I'll just start from the direct correlation. I'm just work through this if you want me to. You guys have it in front of you. They don't have it in front of them. Across from their house, we had a test well at the Coons, which is 200 feet from you guys, a couple hundred feet across the street. So we had a level transducer in there. So at the time that they initially had problems, in Coons well across the street, it only dropped 2.3 feet. So at that time, in that 6 days, it's not like you're experiencing the drop that you did after wells 2 and 3 turned on 2 weeks later. So initially, this was all well 4, which is 1.5 miles away. The drawdown wasn't nearly as bad until wells 2 and 3 turned on, which was November 21st. And that's where it dropped to a total of 8.3 feet. And that was as far as it went. Then after everything shut off, it went back up. So that's where, in Rich's description, stuff would, be oxidized and fall off.
Their well is also deeper than ours is.
Okay, but the water table is a water table. So the level there should be relative to where it is.
Rob's gonna go back and forth.
Yeah, no, so the water table is water table. So it doesn't matter how deep the well is, the water's at what level it is. So back to, go through the impact. Back to a lot of it, the Hillenbrand, their recommendations, annual maintenance. And going through it, we found that obviously maintenance was not done annually. What they were told, if they were told 4 years, that's what they were told. I can't dispute that, but what we were told is what, annual maintenance. I would say that in the reports that you stated that there was never anything clogged in 2016, or 2019, it did say, you said no abnormal system requirements increased maintenance noted. In that one, it said the aeration head was clogged. The aeration head was clogged and aeration head needed to be cleaned. So that was clogged. So we're going off of a clogged thing in 2019. You're correct, it did not say anything about being clogged in 2016. 23, it did say very dirty water. When I talked to Hillenbrand, asked about the annual maintenance, they told me lifespan was 10 to 15 years. When they did ask what needs to be maintained annually, the aeration tank should be cleaned, and there's a stack and piston in the filtering valve that should be changed out for new parts. The media itself will last 5 to 10 years depending on usage and water quality. If the unit was from 2009, we would recommend replacing the unit for new. Based on maintenance history, the filter media had never been changed out since the system been installed in 2009. When I sent the picture of the dirty, rusty media to Hellenbrand, their response was, that can happen over time if the system is not serviced. For this application, I would recommend service every 12 months, maybe even every 8 months to ensure the system functions properly. I just want to point out, like Renee had talked about, wells at risk. Yes, their well was one of 7 that were at risk. That was for out of water. That was not for water quality. It was at risk because it would be within 10 feet of where the water level could be. So that's why the city paid to extend the pipe down. I believe that's all I have. So, and again, the information we got from Hartman is inconsistent with the information that they have from Hartman. Again, we can only go off the information that we receive from the vendors or the contractors, which there's clearly discrepancies between their information and our information. I guess unless anybody needs any clarification on anything, I think I'm, okay.
Can I respond? There are a couple things, and I really don't want this tennis match back and forth where obviously, you know, you're going by what Hellenbrand says and what, you know, what Benjamin Franklin says. And I can't argue with that. You sent Hellenbrand a picture and said, what do you think about this? They don't know the situation. You know, it's taken out of context. And I guess that's where my frustration is. The Coons, completely, they might be right across the street from us. They have a water softener. They don't have an arm filter. They have no need. They have a completely separate need than we do, even though they're right across the street. So and I'm just a little bit frustrated. And also, you know, this whole yearly inspection thing, never heard of it, never told about it, never in any report that you saw. So to hang your hat on that is just a big disservice. You know, we did what it took. We were good homeowners, and I hope that you see that. Thank you.
Can you just give me what's remaining in the process so I know that I understand what's going on? Is it-
Our opportunity to ask questions after that, we'll make a determination.
Okay. I mean, I will ask a silly question just to make sure, I mean, maybe it's not silly, but when we're talking about the water level and the amount that was dropped, how is that measured? Because it seems like we have a different understanding across.
So the water was measured in the Coons well across the street. So basically a level transducer gets dropped down into the well. It would take readings I think it was every hour.
Is it like from the ground down to where you
Yes,
find water?
yes. So it would equate to the elevation of the water in the aquifer, or there's two different ways. From the top of the well casing down, there would be a measurement, but then there's also an elevation measurement. So where the actual water is in their well. So the hole is drilled into the aquifer and the water comes up to a certain level. So when a level transducer that automatically would send, throughout the whole process of our pump test, we have transducer data from across the street, where the level starts here for the first 2 weeks, dropped about 2.3 feet. After the first 2 weeks, because it was pumping in well 4, which is a ways away, at a lower rate. It was 850 gallons a minute. Once wells 2 and 3 turned on at 1,250 gallons a minute, the water dropped for a total like 8.3 feet. So it dropped an additional 6 feet in those wells in that area for the additional 2 weeks. And then once it was shut off, then the graph would gradually climb back up. So that basically showed what our pumping did, as Renee had showed, our cone of depression, how far out it went. So we had, I believe, 10 transducers all over. We had some in our own wells, we had some out by where the Niagara site is, we had one in Coons, we had one in another house on the gravel road on Main Street that was 0.6 miles away, so they had even more drop than what was noticed out there. So the transducers just basically showed what the aquifer did during the pump test.
Can I expand a question on that question? Does it have anything to do, does the drawdown or how the water is measured have anything to do with, let's say, house A is here, house B is here, different elevations, but the well, their well is deeper because they're higher up versus their well is shallower because they're lower? Does that have anything to do with where the water tables are with inside the casings? That maybe the drawdown is different from home to home?
I'm not an expert on that, but I would not think that there is any difference between, because you're drilled into the same aquifer.
Okay,
Yeah,
I know it's just
if one well is 330 feet
That was a
deep,
very good question.
Act two might as well just, it's
This is our life, though.
ridiculous.
This is our life, and we're frustrated.
So, Don, can I, and maybe it's a question, like, your comment while he was talking about the, like, can you explain what you mean?
We've also got 2 properties in Newmarket Township in the little business park. One well is 40 feet deeper than the other. And same thing, we don't have an iron filter in one building, the other building we do. So the depth of the well makes a difference.
yeah, but what I'm talking with the depth
Oh, I
of the
understand what you're
drawdown, what I was talking about
Yeah, but if
in
my
that.
well is 30 feet higher than the Coons, that's a huge difference.
So I think the issue is we're crossing different topics. The point that can 2 wells have different water characteristics? Yes. But the discussion at the time was in the context of how much drawdown had occurred in the well at what point in time and would have led to what potential degree of slough off within the well. So whether or not Coons well across the street is 10 feet shallower, 10 feet deeper, really doesn't matter. We know that regardless of where they sit, 2 wells across the street from each other are gonna have the same level of water in their well. It's gonna be at the same elevation, and it's gonna draw down because of proximity at the same rate. So we know, it's reasonable to infer that if the drawdown in Coons well was X distance over that time, it's gonna be basically the same across the street than a well across the street, regardless of how deep the well is drilled. The static level in the well casing would be at the same elevation.
So an aquifer never changes its depth to the elevation of the land?
So
Not within that.
the elevate, so yes, one well, if one house is up on a hill and one house is lower, one well could be deeper than the other, but the actual elevation of the water is going to be at the same level.
So you can have a well, a house here, and a house here, but the level of the aquifer with homes in close proximity is gonna be at the same height, elevation. that discussion gets to how much drawdown there had been from the water's normal position, how far and how long, and then to what degree that might have resulted in slough off, which might have resulted in impact to the well and treatment system.
You want to keep going, or we want to bounce around?
Jeff is correct. Two wells within some proximity can have different water characteristics from each other and different treatment systems. That is a fair statement.
I guess, I think we're debating something that experts are going to have different opinions on. I was able to just pull up quickly that cone of depression is not symmetrical. Hydraulic connectivity matters more than distance. You could have neighboring wells with two different impacts caused by drawdown. So, I want to pull out of the details a little bit and ask some of the process stuff in the sense of who is the burden of proof on right here, is my question, first one.
The burden of proof would be on the Weitzel's to establish that there was some impact on their system. The city's not required to provide this payment, but they are choosing to do it, so it's up to the Weitzel's to establish that need.
And so kind of a follow-up to that, and you kind of led into where I was going, what level of some impact is sufficient to show that some impact was made that would then be reasonable to?
So this isn't a criminal matter, so it's not beyond a reasonable doubt. It's, as a city, you typically are required to make decisions based on reasonableness. And so you're acting as a fact finder here, and a judge generally. You're looking at the weight of the evidence and making a determination on which evidence do you believe more?
Well, I think going back to that September 25th meeting and re-listening to most of it, trying to find out where I was quoted, and I don't think I found where I was quoted. But hearing what Rich said, I do agree, it was stated that, Rich said our city engineer at the time suggested or stated several times that there were impacts caused by the drawdown or by the pump test, that I think I even asked a question about, these pipes are this big, can really 2 feet of sludge fall off, and would it matter? And he clarified and stated that yes, it could matter because of the circumference or the surface area, or some smart response that he had. And then later on, he also said that this pumping, this impact, the sludge, the slurry of stuff could cause 1, 2, potentially 3 filters to be clogged up and need to be replaced. And so that I wonder, what level of, if you don't replace them right away, that could have a negative impact on the system as a whole. And, I'm not a water filtration expert, but I'm trying to wrap my head around what level of impact or the burden of proof of some kind to take out some of the stuff that I don't think we need to debate as much. And was there an impact that could have caused, or can we as a city say that there was no impact at all? And if we can confidently say that, I'd entertain that. But I think we have a city engineer that said it did cause an impact, and then it's just how much of an impact and could it have caused the issues here. I hear the debate of, 10 to 15 years, 15 to 20. When I did a quick AI search, it was 15 to 25. And then the media was 8 to 10, and they don't even post any of the required or recommended maintenance schedules anywhere, even in the manuals. I was looking through the manual quick, and they don't have the recommended things in there. So based on that, it was a 1 to 3 year recommendation for regular maintenance. So I think there's going to be discrepancies in who says what and what information we gather. So I'm trying not to get bogged down in that stuff, because then I think we're going to get lost in this. My question is, was there an impact? And if so, is it reasonable that the city pays for it? And that's just where I'm stuck, or at. I'm not
And
stuck.
I would say our decision to offer the $300 is us saying there may have been an impact. I don't know if others feel that way, but that is my assessment of our situation. We are, like Andrea said, acting in good faith and doing this kind of outside of what is expected of us because we admit that there may have been some problems and we're willing to allow people to come to the table and express what those problems might have been if it's outside of the scope of that 300. That, I don't know. You weren't asking me, but that is,
I'm
I
asking
guess
the
that's
group.
my
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
answer and my assessment of where we are today and what we're doing right now.
Don, in the presentation, I said you're considering, or you're going to replace your system. Did you replace it already?
It's scheduled for next week.
And is that the 3,900?
Yes. We are doing the pre-filter as a preventative.
Did you take a photo of the filter in December 2025, by chance? I know you took one in 23,
No.
but you did. What was different?
He didn't take it apart.
I'm curious.
Yeah, we had staining coming up in a shower.
Over my notes.
When it does, the pre-filter, I got kind of the same response you did, that, basically, you could put one in if you want to, from Helen Brand, that's what they got back. They said, in this situation, I would recommend one, but it's up to them because you're gonna change out more filters if you need to. It's just another maintenance issue. So I kinda did get the same response from them, which was different than Benjamin Franklin, which, again, discrepancies in what information is gathered.
Your current system is 16 years old, correct?
Yes.
John, I do have a question for you. In reading through your paperwork, you do have the multimedia depth filter, correct?
Yes.
And from my research, a multimedia depth filter allows for a finer, deeper filtration cleaning versus a single depth filter, correct? So technically, it should be cleaning better than a single by about 25 to 30 micros is what I found when I did research. Is that correct?
That sounds about right. When we first bought, we had 4 people out, and this was,
So technically, the system you had should have been doing a very
Yeah.
fine job at getting rid of any filament, anything coming through because you had the multimedia depth filter, correct?
Yes.
Sorry, I did my research.
That was a lot.
I don't know what you just
So,
said.
so if I
Trust
may,
me, I had to
if
go.
I may, Mayor,
You may.
I would be cautious about council doing their own research because it's not evidence that's being presented here.
I just needed
as
to
part
know
of-
the definition of what a multimedia depth filter was versus a single.
I'm- It's just kind of outside of the scope of the evidence that's been presented tonight that everybody has access to.
Okay, sorry.
Any other questions?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think back to the legal side, or just what we're here to do. Determine the reasonableness of, I'm gonna use that word a lot now. Is it reasonable? Could we reasonably expect that the pumping increased the need for the filters to need to be changed and the potential aging of a system? And, I mean, I think it would be reasonable to make that assumption, especially based on the information that was presented at the September 25th meeting.
Josh,
and-
can I interrupt?
Yeah, no, go
You're
for it.
getting to the next part.
Oh, am I?
Yeah, so.
All right,
That-
sorry.
If there's, do you guys have any more questions of staff or the Wensels?
Maybe one more for Andrea. What recourse do they have? Let's hypothetically say we deny, the request, or deny the payment of this, is there recourse beyond this?
Yes, they could certainly bring legal action if they chose to do so through the court system.
Additionally, it's our understanding, under the terms of the water quality response plan portion of our permit, they could, since this is related to a water quality issue, it could be appealed to the DNR if they don't agree with the decision that's made by the city. And I confirmed that recently in discussion with the DNR.
And if I may, one more quick clarifying thing too. So in this, I don't believe, any decision we make for, against, whatever, is a precedent setter. I mean, I think we sometimes worry that if we make a decision one way, it's going to lead to, a bunch of things having to be decided a certain way in the future, for or against. But like we're looking at each of these requests, if we receive more than this one, as individual situations based on individual findings of fact and research and all that stuff, correct? So what the decision we make today doesn't have any potential bearing on future decisions we'll make on other distinct things.
Two things I would say. Number one, it could depend based on what you base your decision on. That could apply to many others. Secondly, it depending again how you decide, it could be more of a political issue for you. Legal precedent, no.
I have one more question. What was the city's expense for the 21 feet and whatever other maintenance was?
Give me 1 second.
$29.33.
Correct. 2933.
All right, any other questions?
I mean, I have a question, because what if I have questions while we're talking about this?
Well, understood.
ask.
We'll address them as they come up. All right, now we'll move into our discussions, how we're gonna be moving forward here. Our discussion and decision time.
Did you want to say earlier?
Yeah, continue with your thought that I cut you off with, sorry, but
November 25th meeting.
I mean,
talk about reasonableness.
would it be reasonable to assume that there was an impact on the pump test outside of normal and standard things? And I think that was even something that the city engineer stated was this was above and beyond, whatever, and above and beyond the normal, I can't remember the exact words, processes or things with these types of systems. It always happens with these systems, but it happens at a slower rate. So, I mean, I struggle knowing that there are discrepancies with the findings of the fact of the ages of or the life expectancies that was presented by the different groups of that. So that causes pause in my brain to think there's a difference and a discrepancy there. And, I think we heard through the process over the last few years, so not necessarily specific to this, that there are differences within the aquifer and potential variations of the water table and how it's impacted by drawdown, and we had experts from all different groups talk about that. So like is it reasonable to assume there's an impact? In my brain, it is reasonable to assume there was an impact. Now, to what Megan brought up too is a good point of reasonable beyond the $300 and the justification that we gave for that $300 of replacing a few filters and things like that. I mean, this changes when a system fails. Now, did it fail because of old age? Perhaps. It very well could have. But it very well could have not. It could have been caused by, I think, reasonably, another assumption could be that it was caused by the pumping and the impacts of that test. So I can't definitively say, and I know I don't have to definitively say one way or the other, but that's where I'm struggling, to make a recommendation or determination on the recommendation.
I'm hung up on the age of the system. I don't know if other people feel that way too, but
Yeah, so I think that's a factor, but then
Everybody's
also is the,
microphone's on.
yes.
Thank you.
Do I need to bring it closer to me? Maybe. Okay, so I think the age is definitely a factor. But obviously the pump test is also a factor, so I don't think it's like one or the other. We have to find where, I don't know, I'm not gonna do any creative math, but I think that we have to figure out what makes sense, because my opinion is, it is, to me, there was regular maintenance done on this system. Like, maybe not the recommended annual, if that is a thing, but let's be honest, not all of us are gonna keep up with that on a, like, as human beings. So I think it's clear to me that the Whitesels are taking care of their system, and they're, you know, regularly maintaining their system. So I think that is what's putting me at, I'll just say at more than 300, but not for the full amount of the new system.
I would agree. Age of the system, 16 years old. We've already invested $2,933. I'm middle, maybe split the difference, or maybe even figure out what that 5 years would have been that they maybe would have got out of it, figure out what that expense is, and build on that.
I agree, Amanda, that I think both can coexist. And to that point too, I guess, is prorate the right word? Like where you would,
Yeah,
my
it
dad
kinda
just
is.
got sideswiped the other day and his car was totaled. So he got a very small amount for his vehicle he's had for the last 15 years. He
Right.
probably would have gotten another 5 out of it. Can we prorate for that loss because it may have prematurely failed due to the pump
Absolutely we
test?
can. That's what we're gonna decide right now. So,
But
yeah.
then
I think
ho-
that's like
how
a
do-
good-
How would you figure that out? I mean, price-wise? How do you,
I was looking
Math.
over.
I know, but.
Council would, if they wanted to take that approach, would be to reasonably determine what they reasonable expectation would be for the lifespan of that equipment. Look at how much of the lifespan and then receive the benefit thereof. And then you would take a look at, either assigning replacement value based on the value of the system and, which we don't have the information for, and reasonably we wouldn't. You could do it on a replacement of comparable for the remaining amount of time. So if you think of it in terms of your roof, insurance company comes in, you get your roof got damaged, windstorm, hail, whatever, we're gonna replace it, but the replacement cost for your roof is X, but got 75% of the life out of your roof, so we'll reimburse you for 25% of that cost of replacing that roof. It would be that type of methodology, but it would be incumbent upon you guys to determine what that reasonable lifespan is. And as we've seen, there are different sources offering different opinions with regards to that.
I have a question now. The $2,933 in my scribble at this point, what was the intent of it? Was the intent to save the system or to just limp it along?
That was to drop the bill.
Yeah, that would be independent from this discussion. That was related to the well interference and dropping the well.
Pump, so
Yeah.
they
Yeah,
wouldn't
that has
run
nothing
out.
to do with the
Yeah.
system.
Okay.
That was an obligation we had related
Yeah.
to lowering the pump, so it'd be independent of this.
Okay, that makes
So
more sense.
that dollar amount has nothing to do with the 3,998.
Correct.
Okay, that makes more sense then.
Mayor, if I may.
Yeah.
I would just recommend, I think there's 2 steps here. Number 1, you need to decide, does the city, do you all agree, or predominant number of you agree, that this was the proximate cause of any issues that they had? That's first. And then you can get to what you think the damage was and what you would want to contribute for that.
I mean, and I'm gonna flip that. I can't say that it wasn't the cause of the issues that they're facing, or were facing, are facing, whatever the right tense is. And I wish it was clean and clear like that. Like, I wish,
I wish it was cut and dry.
Come on.
but I can't say with certainty that it did not have an intact, did not shorten the lifespan, however much lifespan was left, that it did not enhance the need to replace or expedite the need to replace their system. So, backwards way of flipping it back, then to say, yes, I think there is a reasonableness to say that it did expedite the
I
system.
think we could all, I think we're all agreeing that that's reasonable. And I'll just figure it out. what I'm not-
Question or comment? The one that, I mean, none of this is easy, but with this, you know that when Hartman lowered their well, you know that there was nothing wrong with their well or their drop pipe. So we know that, where other cases that we are looking at, you don't have that information because you don't know what's in their well. So with this one, you know that their well, their casing, everything is good, where in other ones, we've seen issues with people's wells going bad or holes in their drop pipe, where you know with this one that they have good drop pipe, they have good pump, so it's not anything that was caused by a failure of their well equipment that's underground. Does that make sense?
Well, what I'm hearing the council say is that, but you believe that to some degree, undefined at this point, there may have been an influence of the aquifer test causing the sloughing off of material, which has been hypothesized by the city engineer's office, and we've endorsed that concept as a city, which is why we're offering the compensation. That would be unrelated from an equipment failure. That's just related to normal stuff that builds up in every well to varying degrees. So I think, going to Andrea's comment, you guys need to make a determination to what degree you think it may have impacted, knowing that it's a reasonableness test. There are no absolutes of information that have related to that. It's a decision based on the accumulation of the total information and what you believe is reasonable.
So when Hartman dropped that pipe that is separate from this issue, it was good?
Yeah, the reason Hartman was there was to verify how much pipe was in there.
Yeah.
And then at the time, they pulled it, and the city paid to add 21 feet, and then Whitesell's paid to add another 44-ish feet. So you know that pipe is, at least the bottom pipe that is in the water was good, and if there was any pipe that was bad, I'm assuming they would have replaced it at that time. So, back to my statement, like, you know that their well, their pump, their drop pipe was good.
Remind me, when was that?
November of 2024.
And in that process, and I think, was this the one where they had to go back and get a air compressor or something to clean the pipe? When they do that, I assume they also then, I mean, they don't just spray the stuff off and then let it sit there. They make sure that it's cleaned out.
Yeah,
and-
so
and that-
basically, they'll use a high-pressure air tool that scours everything, and then what they'll do is they'll pump all that stuff out until they have good, clean water. And then they'll put the pump, then they'll drop the pump all the way back down.
And the reason they do that is because there is stuff on the sides, and when you put it down, it's like when you,
And then,
yeah, it's just when you put the plunger in the toilet or drop a rock in the lake, it stirs things up, so they want to get it as clean as possible before they put it down.
The technician that was out there did say there was sand in there, and that was his first issue. He cleared the manganese out, but then he had sand that he had to clear out. And that's what the compressor is for, just to help push all that, whatever settles in the case.
So when November,
That was done in 2024,
November.
correct? But we're questioning in 2023.
Correct, this is so this
It's related to
discussion is related
2023, not
a year earlier. Yep.
2024.
But they didn't document any bad drop pipe at that time.
Correct.
and there's a photo from November 2023. that-
Yep. Yep.
And then again in December 2025, they're completely clogged again, which I question, I'm like, what's the deal? Because in November 2024, it was clean, but November 2025, they're clogged.
I mean,
In my
Two
notation.
separate things. The drop pipe is
Right,
in
I'm
the
just-
well. So you have the well casing,
Yeah.
goes in the ground, drop pipe goes in there. So what they have there in that picture, that's in their iron filter that's inside their house. Basically, their iron filter looks like a water softener. So that's what that is.
And that's timestamped November 2023.
and I go back
Not on
to,
there, but it is.
sorry, Amanda, were you gonna talk? I was just gonna say, I go back to, like, I don't disagree with what anybody's saying in any of this conversation, so I don't know how to make that clear without, like, I truly believe that that is all, everybody's being accurate in their responses. And it's not 100%, the Weitzel's need to prove that it was the pump test that caused it fully and completely, nor does the city have to defend it 100% to say without any reasonable doubt, blah, blah, blah. So I go back to the reasonableness of it, that there is a possibility that it would be reasonably understood that, yes, there could have been an impact, and then it's the next step, so.
All right, and that's where all right, their system is from 2016,
2009.
2009. It's 16 years old, that's where that came from in my head. Maybe get another 5 years out of it, so what's the difference
How
between
did
5
we
years?
confirm the 2009? Because I feel like early on in the report it said install date unknown, and then later it
So,
said 2009.
The reason for that was because the first part of the report or findings was based on an interview with the Weitzels, and they stated at that time they didn't know the exact installation date. Later, when an interview was conducted with Benjamin Franklin Plumbing, they had records from the former CAS equipment that it was installed in 2009. So then it was clarified later, and maybe we could adjust that in the report going forward.
So the council can be confident of that, at least in our finding, the staff's findings related to the installation date.
And in 2023, it was 14 years old. Okay. Just clarifying.
With that being the case, prorate. Yeah, 5 years.
I know, I was doing math.
Well, it's like 800, $1,000 bucks.
What did you
Huh? 800,000?
800 to $1,000 is what.
Would you guys be okay with
I heard 600, I was like, where did that come from?
I heard 800,000. I'm like,
Oh,
what?
800 to 1,000.
We're gonna buy him a whole new
It'd be in that
house.
ballpark.
You did good. Did you do math?
But then that's based off of 20 years versus,
A 20-year, yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Giving them the difference of if it would have lived for 20 years,
Yeah. Benefit of the doubt, 20-year life.
yeah.
14 of 20, 70%. So giving them, I also removed the pre-filter because I don't think that that is part of our responsibility to cover.
Yeah, the pre-filter's not in.
So
32, whatever.
30% of the 32.99, which is the iron curtain cost, is $990
For close.
given. Paying for 30%. 20% if we were to, so I based it off of, hold on. If we did, like, split between the 15 to 20-year life at 17 and a half, then we have 20% of life left of the system, which would be $660. So those are my two options that I propose.
I'm good with the 20-year plan. That'd be
The 20%
Yeah,
of life, so if it would
or
have
the 30.
split in the middle, there's a 30%.
Yeah, that's fine, man.
I think you asked this already, but I might have missed it. What would that mean then if we move forward with that for the other, like the precedent they're talking?
Somebody else would have to
Give
come
them
in and
a
make a claim, same. And we'd probably do the same thing for somebody else.
Well, I mean, and this feels consistent with the appeals board process, the stuff that I've been doing for half a dozen years now, where based on specific situations and whatever, we have a policy, administrative policy in place that then, you know, makes it easier for staff to make decisions timely and whatever. People can appeal, they provide additional documentation, and it feels like we do this on a consistent basis. And we don't always grant the full request of, you know, whatever, and we do this quite a bit, with the water appeals stuff. And we find a reasonable difference, to compromise at if, you know, whatever. So this feels like in line with that way of thinking, from how we do things at the city, but.
Can we just add one thing into that $32.90 whatever price, since you're taking out the pre-filter in November? What is it? November 15th, they did have to, of 23, the time period we're talking about, the Weitzel's had their, had to service their iron filter and clean their iron filter for $402. So would we be including that into that 32?
And as I'm thinking through that, is like 2019 was the last service of the iron filter, but then 2023, it needed to be cleaned. And then was it again?
23, it was serviced.
Yeah, but, okay, so I don't know, now I'm sort of going back, just because
So
it seemed like it would have been routine, maybe that would have been like routine time, and just happened to meet at the time of the pump test.
But it was only a few days after the pump test,
That's
correct?
what's, yeah. What day we start?
Started on the
8th?
8th. Started on the 8th, and that was, I believe the call was made on the 14th. But yes, there was maintenance done in 2016, 2019, so I think 3.5 years later, and then 2023.
But did they have to have it?
I think it's similar maintenance done. Sorry.
It was cleaned, their aeration head, I think all the maintenance is pretty similar. It's definitely worded different in 16, 19, and 23. In 23, it did say very dirty head, or very dirty filter media. It did say very dirty, and then in 2019, it said it was clogged. So, different verbiage, but I would think that it's maintenance.
I think we've kind of arrived to a conclusion here. Do you want to add that? Were you thinking of adding that expense of the
Well,
23?
I was actually thinking that, I mean, obviously, you all want to prorate it, which is fine. But I was thinking that if nothing else, we'd split half and half. Because I can tell by reading the room, we're not all gonna be in favor of paying the full amount of $39.98 or $32.98 or 30, whatever that total is. So if we could meet in the middle at half, but
Can I make a comment or suggestion? If the council is applying a proration logic, going to Josh's comments that there may be something there, but not definitively one way or the other, the service that was done in 2023 is in line with the regular service. But if the council believes that some of that service may have been the result, you could apply whatever you decide for the proration, you would apply it to the service call, because there's some logic that would follow.
that
It feels consistent, or it feels more consistent that way too then.
I'm at a prorate, and then we could prorate that as well, their expense for that. Where are you at,
I think prorate.
Josh?
I agree.
You prorate or 50/50?
I 50/50.
Where are you at?
I'm at prorate,
So
and I just
Prorated
feel
as-
like I need
Now,
to
what,
just,
to what
we
percentage?
have to determine this.
Yes.
You say
30 or
with a
20?
smile.
I mean, I just like.
3% or
I'm
20%?
over here in Excel, but I don't, like,
I think we
I'm
agreed
not an
30%
accountant.
or 20%, and I'm at 30.
And then what sort of, somebody's gonna have to check this work.
I just did 6 years from 14, if we assume 20, so got 14 out of it.
Or we just round up, 1,000 for the,
Just on 6, it's 989.
$1,000, and for
0.7.
that, and then.
If you want to get technical.
Thank you. I know I needed.
I mean, I think we go with as precise as we can, because when or if there's another situation, again, no precedents, all of that. But then we'll be able to potentially apply a similar type of logic in the future. So if we're gonna prorate and we think that that makes sense, then prorate it to, you know, maybe not the cent, but instead of rounding, cause then we'll get into the, you know, how high, when do we round up and when don't we, and
Yeah, okay,
So-
fair.
just trying to think through that a little bit. So
Round to the
it's
nearest dollar.
990-ish plus whatever 30% of 402 is.
$120.86.
So 1110 ish.
1110-ish, or 1110.
11/10.
$11.10.56.
In Excel.
But we don't make pennies anymore. I just want to say that this is a very thorough review, and we have a lot of records here, which I think is a big factor in making these decisions. Like, the history and the maintenance are very important.
Absolutely.
Just need, like, because you have me paranoid about precedent to some degree.
But not
But there are a
everybody's-
lot of factors that are playing into this in the amount of information that has been provided. And then same with Public Works and going through the level of detail and the process that's gone through there as well.
Not everybody that comes to us is going to be as well organized as the Weitzel's were. Or you guys will always do your jobs as well as you did them here for us. But there will be other people that might come forward that do not have the records that the Weitzel's had. And I think that helps me fall on the side that the city is at more fault than they are at fault.
That's why I wanted to touch on, we know that everything in their well is good. Because I know there's other ones that we are working on that we don't have the same information on them. So the other ones that we will be reviewing are gonna get more difficult because we know for sure that their well is good because it was pulled and there's more drop pipe put on it.
So we'd agreed 1,111?
Lucky number.
Is that where we're landing?
Yeah.
Do you need a vote, or?
Mayor, if I, oh,
Yeah,
you go
you may.
ahead, Tom.
So if that is the council's decision, this is obviously not consistent with the draft findings of fact and decision. So we would recommend that the council direct staff to go back and prepare a revised finding of fact and decision based on your discussion and conclusion this evening that we would place on the consent agenda at the next meeting.
You need a,
I'd make a motion to do that.
I was gonna say, that was my question, is,
Second.
do we need a motion? Any discussion?
But just one last little gentle pushback on the statement that, you know, the whole point of this process was to allow for an additional step of due process and impartiality and to have this discussion. So while I don't necessarily I see this at all levels of government where we, you know, as a licensee, we try to contest something that the commissioner may say we did wrong and the decision ultimately lands back at the commissioner, I mean, it feels like it's a losing battle. But I think hopefully what this is trying to show is like there is this extra level of analysis or review, because we do trust our staff and the information that they get, but also that there are more variables to it. And due process is not alive and well right now in anywhere. And I think trying to protect that is what I'm trying to do, or we're trying to do. So I don't know, I appreciate this process, I mean, I'm sure nobody's probably feeling great about any of this. Staff aren't, Weitzel's aren't, but I think that's probably a decent spot to be in for this one, and we'll see how it goes in the future.
I would just say that staff doesn't feel anyway.
Right.
Our mandate was to go collect information. This committee's charge was to collect information and make a recommendation based on the information that they had. To your point, Josh, this process was intentionally put in place to allow for other variables to be considered, other opinions to be considered, and just as Dawn and Jeff did, provide their opinion or their perspective with the understanding that the council's the final arbiter, so to speak, on this and makes the final decision.
I have a question about process. Is now the time for that? Okay, I'm just gonna ask it. Don made some recommendations about the process, and I'm wondering if we can have a further conversation on that, not tonight, but like later.
Yeah, that's up to the council. The process tonight was the council, is the process that was dictated by the council. The council can always change that process at any time.
I absolutely
think
agree.
it's not a change of the process, but
Addition to.
some more details in expectations of like timing and things of that nature. That's all.
And
Absolutely agree.
I just caution us to start changing things on one data point. So, I mean, I don't necessarily disagree, but I think we'll know a lot more as we continue to do this, refine this, as will everybody throughout this process, so.
I think it's
Yeah.
the pieces, what I don't know is like the timing of, the Weitzel's got the report, it's on the agenda, like, timing, length of time,
So
opportunity to review.
the Weitzel's had expressed an urgency to getting this resolved. We got it on the council agenda as quickly as we could. They determined that they had concerns with the report and they wanted to provide counter opinions, so we changed the date to reasonably allow them to be able to do that, because they should have the ability to have adequate time to prepare the response. So the timing of when it initially went on was based on trying to be responsive to their desire to get this resolved quickly, and then the change was responsive to their desire to provide them reasonable time to dispute, which we found out after we provided the report.
Thanks for that detail.
Yep.
That makes sense.
All right, so we have a motion to revise the fact finding and add it to the next consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Sir,
I have to bail.
good night.
Thank you.
You should have told him no. Do you need to go get some sleep?
I have to bail too, but I'll just show up late.
Oh, you have to go to work.
I'm going to work still. I'm fine. They can live without me. All right, that concludes general business reports. Start with you, sir.
I have nothing specific under administration unless the council has any questions on anything.
No, not for me, no. Corey?
Office remodel, painting, carpet is completed, which was a very long process, but the guys did a great job doing everything down here and keeping everybody in the office happy. So they finished up with that earlier this week, and we're rolling into spring and summer. So And again, Derek and I are still working on a lot of these, which, as you can see, the detail that Renee put into this, we're giving her all the information, and she's been doing an amazing job at that. But
Fantastic, yeah.
it is a lot of work. It is just trying to paint the picture and gather information is, yes, it's a lot of work, so.
It was
Thank
really,
you.
really great. I just want, like, that,
I mean, the amount of work you guys did was fantastic.
it's great.
Chief?
Good news, Officer Meisner is just about done the field training, and I believe next week he'll be on solo patrol. So we are excited to get him on the road, by himself. And, we're still struggling though to hire more people. We just did not pass one candidate on. We do have 2 candidates in background, but, we'll have to kind of see how things go. That's it.
No fire? Sir?
There's an update in your packet. Happy to chat on any of those items.
I require a joke.
Oh, okay, yeah, so.
Like, we all.
I didn't know, I was trying to read the room. I was gonna let you guys bring it up, whether you
Start with
want.
the precedent.
So,
Now it has to carry through
I've been looking
forever.
forward to
no, on the way here though, I was driving by it and there's a barber shop there and there's a line of folks. There's a bunch of guys lined up right outside that barber shop. And I'm like, oh, look, it's a barbecue. Happy to answer any questions
little
anybody's got.
humor.
Community development.
Yep. Biggest item is probably earlier tonight, the interview process we conducted, so.
Okay, parks.
We had a discussion this week, actually last night at the Parks Commission. The primary topic was looking at the capital, well, 2 parts. One was to look at the Highlands Park and Highlands at Eagleview and confirm the park name as Highlands Park. The other part was to approve a conceptual layout that Brandon can use for going out and getting quotes for work to be done on the site. The other half, maybe the other 2/3 or 3/4 of the meeting, was to go through the capital outlay going forward. This will be coming forward formally in the budget process, but they are recommending based on anticipated future needs with other parks that are becoming online, that at a minimum, we continue to increase the park's capital outlay by $5,000 a year. That previous plan was scheduled to end in 2027, so they're recommending that that should continue forward in the capital outlay. There would be no impact to that in the 2027 budget because we've already planned for it, so this is more for we should start putting something away until we have more definitive numbers based on the actual timing of the parks and what actually gets built in.
All right. TCEC.
Easter egg hunt went really well. Our next meeting is until April 21st, so I don't have final numbers unless Josh shared something with you guys.
They do have a final number. In the office, I have not been provided with it yet.
We did 325 bags, and there was probably, I would guess, maybe 25 or 30 bags left.
Bags is not a good indicator.
I know.
The cash is.
That's why I'm kind of saying like this.
I want to say I thought I heard a number of around 220 and change, which. Yeah, which is a little bit on the lower end of our typical range. We've usually been between like 220, 240, 240 being like really good and 220 being kind of fairly consistent with our historical numbers, so.
There we go. But
Beth said she had an absolute blast.
It was
fun,
awesome.
Yeah.
Now you have to recruit her hard now, because I've been trying to get her, and she's just not doing it. And then you recruit her, for sure. It's a for sure thing.
She did great. And she's gonna help out at Fire Rescue Days, so.
Send her a text, tell her where to be.
She did great.
Whether
She
it's
had-
meetings or whatever, just tell her.
Yep, okay.
Drag her in.
I will.
And if she watches this, yeah.
Question on composition?
Oh, Yes, so composition, I was on, I don't know what happened to it, sorry. Composition is doing the 4 businesses, so we have, oh God, sorry, my head is swimming right now.
Scouts, Fire Relief,
Scouts, Fire
Lions.
Relief, Lions, and then I don't know about Tony yet. We haven't heard back from Tony. But if Tony won't be there, we believe Crossroads. So Gordon and his people will be there. And then we have 3 people that are at large. One is Heather Sawyer. I did talk to your wife about being at large. I haven't heard back yet if that's what she wants to do. She's gonna think about it as being a,
Odd, she didn't bring it up. I'll ask her
So-
later.
and then, I thought we had one more.
Monica Engel.
Yeah, Monica Engel, thank you. Yep, I just always tie her into Boy Scouts, but that's the other lady. So that's what our composition looks like going forward.
So if the council agrees with that generally and with the names that were proposed, that can be brought up back as a resolution in the near future.
Sounds good.
But let's wait till we hear back from Miss Ganfield and see if she would like
She's
to
gonna call
do it.
later. Like, on my way to work.
Okay.
All right.
Scale is tomorrow.
Scale is tomorrow.
Yep, service delivery is later in the month. On the insurance consortium item, Kelly and I are planning to bring you a presentation on that, probably at the next meeting. We were able to meet with the consultant on the updated feasibility study where it has more data specific to us. That data, given the model, and it's like every other model, you know, a lot of us, there are assumptions that go into it, but it does indicate that there would be a notable benefit to us to participate in the consortium versus probably going to the market alone in 2027. Now, that's not a guarantee, but it's assuming that if you plug the same information into the consortium model versus an independent model using similar assumptions, you get an order of magnitude of difference. And it does indicate there would be positive. So we'll come back with the details on that. And what we would be looking for from the council is we're staying on the bus to the next step where it's actually going out for formal quotes and working through the governance issue. And then the next step after that is basically in or out at that particular point. And the turnaround on this is relatively quick. They're looking for us to basically come back with our answer by mid-May. So we basically have the next council meeting or the council meeting after that to make that decision about whether or not we're still on the bus to the next stop or not. And then we have the big topic is as the chair of service delivery, I've been connecting with all of the service delivery primary participants, the people that are regularly engaged, and getting feedback from them about the value of service delivery committee, what it's doing, how it's operating, how it's run, et cetera. And then my plan is that at this month's meeting, I'll present that to the larger group if there are themes and get some feedback and some discussion and direction from the committee itself.
All right. 135, anything?
Nothing major from this morning, other than we're getting a 24% rebate on our dues for the year. So we'll get a couple
Put it
$100
towards the bridge.
back. And yeah,
it
we
with the
talked more
rest.
about public transit today, so not too big of an impact down here. But
Who's gonna MC?
That should
Same thing.
really come off. We keep it should really come off, but by the time we take it off, it's gonna be that season again.
Yeah.
All right, I'll cross that off.
So,
All right. Any discussion by council? Seeing none.
Motion to adjourn.
second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Adjourned.